And then you kind of go through that stage of that immature early stage of it's all about me and I got to fight my way up. And you say I a lot more. And then you get to that stage where, okay, how can I serve this organization? How can I serve my sport and leave it better than I found it?
My next guest is a coach who took all that he learned from football coaching and found that you can apply that to individual sports as he did with golf. I will introduce you to Brent McCuiston right after this.
Hi, listeners. This is Glenn West, the Assistant Executive Director of Texas High School Coaches Association. It's time to register for coaching school. This year's coaching school will be held in San Antonio, July 21st through the 23rd. And in addition to the 250 lecture hours that we offer, we'll be adding a second turf field that will allow soccer, baseball, and softball demos. Tennis, aquatic, and golf will be off-site for one day of exhibits as well. Basketball court will be moved from a half court to a full court. You're all not going to want to miss this. You can find information of coaching school and hotels and membership renewal on our website at thsca.com.
Have you ever thought about doing your own podcast? It is the absolute best way to grow your brand, spread your message, and build your following. Fresh Media Works can help. We do all the heavy lifting, and you just focus on your message. To find out how easy we can make launching your new podcast, call 713-269-4620 or check us out at freshmediaworks.com. All right, everybody join me in welcoming Coach Brent McCuiston to the show. Coach, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited about doing this.
Oh, you bet, you bet. And I know we'll get into a little bit about your background, but first I want to start off by congratulating you on the 2023 THSCA Girls Golf Coach of the Year Award.
Well, thank you so much. It's very humbling to be chosen for that, and that award, as football coaches and other sports will tell you, it's a team award that I learned a lot from an awful lot of coaches for a lot of years, and came up to fruition through that award.
I love it. And I guess initially you thought you were going the football route, right?
Well, I did. I coached football from graduation date from college in 1982, and even before then some, and all the way till 1996. And the golf job came open at the school I was at the time, and I had a passion for golf, loved it, and something just told me I was supposed to do that. Still loved football, loved coaching football, loved watching football, loved everything about football. But my wife and I sat down, and I chose to take that job, and haven't looked back since.
I love that. And we love to talk about influences in your career, and I assume we can't overlook John Wilkins. If you could explain that influence.
That influence is incredible. So growing up in the Odessa Permian program, I was just like every other kid in Odessa, Texas. I couldn't wait to wear the black and white and be a part of that program, and had an unfortunate accident that pretty much put an end to that. And my first worry was, for some reason I knew very early on that I wanted to coach. And my first worry was, because I didn't play, I wasn't going to be able to coach. And so I tried to fight through that, went to see Coach Wilkins, and he took the time to, make a long story short, he made sure that coaching dream was going to stay alive, handed me a piece of paper with a phone number on it and said, call this, work hard. And so I called that number, and I was the head football coach as a junior in high school for the Fighting Dowling Packers in Odessa, Texas, the Pop Warner team, and I coached them my junior and senior year, and that was my start.
Nice. And what made you realize at such an early age coaching was where you wanted to be?
Just playing Pop Warner football at an early age, and then into junior high in Odessa, and just the great influence all of those coaches had on me, and how they pushed me and challenged me, and put their arm around my shoulder and told me it was going to be okay, or grabbed my face mask and told me to get going. Either way, I just saw myself doing that, and it's to be frank, it's all I've ever thought about doing.
Oh, I love it. I swear, I grew up thinking that face mask was put there for the purpose of the coach to grab.
Mine got grabbed a few times, absolutely, and it only did good. It never hurt a thing.
Right, exactly. So talk to me about after college, how you actually got into coaching.
So I had good people around me at TCU where I went to school, and a couple of people helped me. I was a student assistant for F.A. Dry at TCU. I wound up being a offensive line coach at Trinity Valley, a private school in Fort Worth, in kind of an internship type of role. And then got my very first job with Bob Brown at Joshua Middle School in Joshua, Texas. And that was my first golf job also. I coached 7th and 8th grade football and varsity golf.
Nice. And then when did you become aware, I guess, about the THSCA and start learning what it was all about? Immediately.
Coach Brown made sure we were all ready to go to coaching school, and I'll never forget those first days of the old rotation of Dallas, Fort Worth, and Houston, and went every year, and was just always in awe of the men that were in that room, how the organization was put together, and had always dreamed of being as big a part of that as I possibly could be.
Excellent. And I've talked with so many coaches over the past couple decades, and for all of them, it seems like there was some transition from when they first got into coaching till what they realized how much bigger it was. Talk about that as it relates to coaching school. You know, when you first go to coaching school, it's different than when you go now, right?
Absolutely. Early on, you're a bit intimidated. You see the executive director and the president and the advisory board members, and what you perceive to be the leaders, whether it be through their standing in terms of win-loss records and how long they've been there and how well they're looked up to, and then you kind of go through that stage of that immature early stage of it's all about me and I got to fight my way up, and you say I a lot more, and then you get to that stage where, okay, how can I serve this organization? How can I serve my sport and leave it better than I found it?
Nice. And talk about that. I mean, we'll get into your relationship with kids, but let's talk about the relationship with other coaches and organizations like the THSCA about that servant leadership. Again,
early on, I was a bit intimidated. I would go to listen to lectures and learn all I could every year at coaching school, and then other clinics throughout the year. And then as you get more comfortable in your own skin, you start to meet and be around other people that have been in those leadership roles. Having been a GA at Texas Tech with Coach Dykes and that whole coaching staff, a lot of those guys were very involved in the Texas High School Coaches Association. And of course, they did all they could to help us in that direction also. And so you just start to feel more comfortable being with those people that have achieved those things and have been leaders in the organization, and you start to see yourself as a leader, and that service attitude starts to show up more than the I attitude.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. What about talk about golf in particular, because that had to be quite a transition from football to golf, but talk about the similarities and the differences as a coach.
Early on, there were giant differences in that process. The Texas High School Coaches Association was mainly a football-driven organization, and so when I made that was one of the negatives that I thought of going into the golf world, was kind of losing that association. And I just made a choice early on that I was going to continue to go to coaching school and be a part of things as much as possible. Was elected to the advisory board in golf and did all I could to advance coaches in that world, and just invite them and encourage them. And so that has grown now to where it is today. And that has been very largely to Joe Martin, Glenn West, that whole staff, Libby and Brian, and making sure that the Texas High School Coaches Association is way more than just about football.
Definitely. And as far as your transition to as a coach, talk about the day-to-day differences from football to golf.
When I made that move, some of it was due to the UIL rules of golf. We were not allowed to coach actively during a tournament. We could talk to them from the 9th green to the 10th tee, and that was it. And so coaches kind of became complacent, I guess. It might be a good word. If you couldn't coach, a lot of them wound up just either standing between the 9th and 10th tee, and or some even chose to stay in the clubhouse until the tournament was over. And so the stereotype was well earned of just kind of being van drivers. And I kind of refused to do that. I was going to coach as much as the rules allowed me to coach. I organized my practice schedules on a daily basis. We worked, we had definite drills. We played, we competed. I kind of let all the things I learned being a football coach transition into golf also. And sometimes the old line guy in me would come out in terms of how I approached what I did, and it was a good thing. Those kids needed to be coached. They needed to be challenged.
Yeah, and you mentioned that in the early days those were the rules. How have the rules changed?
Rules have changed immensely. We can now actively coach everywhere but on the putting green, which I think is just fine. Even if we could put on the coach on the putting green, I probably wouldn't. And so that has changed. Now coaches are active. They're out on the course. They may choose to walk with one kid for an entire 18 holes. I'm the kind that I'm going to circulate, find out who may need a little my direction or motivation or a pep talk, whatever that may be. Stay with that kid for a bit. Yes, we are very active in what we do.
Nice. You also mentioned that you have specific golf practices. Walk us through what golf coaching and the practices look like on a typical week.
So I choose to play, have my kids play a lot. I think they learn more through competition than they do standing on the driving range hitting the same old shot, the same old target. That becomes kind of useless. So we tend to play Monday, Tuesday, and sometimes Wednesday. If we have a range day, they have very specific instructions of what that range day is going to look like. It may be a complete wedge day. It may be a driver wedge day. It may be what we call getting out of trouble or a punch shot day. And then Thursday, we typically leave that. We call that short game grind. And we're either chipping or putting or just chipping or just putting. But we spend pretty much a good full 2 hours doing nothing but short game on Thursdays if we're not on the road for a tournament.
Nice. And with, football has a boatload of athletes. In golf, it's a very limited number. Talk about what that means to you as a coach and that relationship, the connection with the kids.
One of the main struggles we have is acquiring golf courses to practice at and driving ranges to be at. And so we're kind of forced to limit our numbers. I have tryouts. I choose to keep 9 girls on the varsity, and then I'll keep another 3 or 4 on the JV, if you will. And so some programs choose to have more. They may have an assistant coach where they can spread out a little bit more. I choose to keep it small just because the intricacies of coaching golf and the time required with one person can be a bit more than it is in football. You're coaching on the run, you're going fast in football, and with golf it's a bit more delicate. So yes, we keep our numbers fairly low at Alamo Heights. Again, others don't. We are not typically the main mechanics coaches for these kids. Almost all of mine have professional swing coaches that they go to. So we don't spend a lot of intricate time with their mechanics, but we do talk about a lot of the major fundamentals on a daily basis. Whereas an offensive lineman, he doesn't have an offensive line guy that is away from the school that he goes to on the weekends. His coach is the coach at school.
Yeah, and it seems like your role would be much more leaning towards sports psychology than, like you mentioned, mechanics.
No doubt. Sports psychology, mental toughness, course management, making good choices on the golf course, understanding that, we play largely a very individual sport in a team setting. And so the choices that a player is making during the course of a tournament, they're making that choice that's going to affect their 4 other teammates. And so making sure that, I coach the sport as a team sport. I believe that what the kids learn from playing for something larger than themselves is priceless. Some coaches, it's all individual. They very seldom do anything together as a team until tournament time. And then 5 individuals go play. They add up the 4 best and they get a team score. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that coaching philosophy. I just choose to do it as a team.
Yeah, that was actually my next question is, football, baseball, softball, basketball, they're all team sports. This being much more individual. How do you involve teamwork? What do you do? Or how? You mentioned they make decisions that affect other players on their team. Tell me about that. Educate me.
It's been a process to learn that and to to get that point across to the kids. I think what I do that presents our program as a team is pretty much everything we do Monday through Thursday in a practice setting is done with a team or a teammate. So they come to rely on each other in that practice setting. And then when we play, sometimes I'll even have our senior captains come up with some type of a team format where we compete, and they do. There's going to be a winner, there's going to be a loser, and there's a consequence for losing. And so they learn very quickly to count on their teammates and to trust their teammates.
Got it. You mentioned earlier that one of the issues you deal with is limited course availability. What are some of the other things that maybe the outside person might not realize is something you have to deal with that we wouldn't have imagined?
I don't know that this will surprise anybody, because I think other sports are dealing with some of these same issues, volleyball, baseball, softball, the club sports atmosphere, and that draw, and the kids being put in a position to have to choose and to deal with both. We don't, golf doesn't have a club sport, but there are multiple outside tournament organizations that the kids are drawn to. And quite frankly, at this point, still, if they have aspirations of playing at the college level, college coaches look at those results from the AJGA, the Texas Junior Golf Tour, the Prestige Tour, and the Legends Tour. They look at those results much more than they do high school tournament results to evaluate whether they want that kid in their program or not.
Got it. You mentioned colleges. What sort of opportunities are there? Everybody knows about, the recruiting for the big sports that everybody's aware of, but what sort of opportunities are there for these athletes to get some scholarships?
Opportunities are numerous, and it seems like even more so for girls. And even with the girls these days, they don't. If you can shoot 85, there's a place for you. That's not going to be the University of Texas. But if you take a young lady that's highly ranked in her class academically, and she has the scores to go find that very specialized Division III university that is of great academic value, say like a Trinity University here in San Antonio, there are lots of opportunities for that. In that range, that's one range, and then that goes all the way up to the D1 Power 5 type schools where if you're not somewhere even par or better in your tournament scoring average in really strong fields, you're probably not going to get a look.
Got it. And then, you see this huge growth in women's and girls sports recently. Have you seen that from the standpoint of tryouts and or people coming to attend events?
No doubt. The number of girls that are interested in golf has increased substantially since I first got in the sport. I think more so than the numbers of girls that are playing, the level of ability is good. Gosh, I remember at El Paso Coronado in 1997, I thought if we could just shoot 325, which is averaging 82 or 83, we'd be in high cotton. And now 325 won't get you very far. My girls' team average right now, and that's 9 girls is 78. So,
wow.
Yeah, it's the bar has gotten really high.
Excellent. And you sort of alluded to it, but let me ask you, what's your take on multi-sport athletes, and how does it differ when you're talking about an individual sport like golf?
You know, I'm going to take a page out of Mike McGraw's book. He is the men's coach at Baylor, does a really cool podcast also that I would hope most golf coaches listen to on a regular basis. We want our kids, or I do anyway, I want our kids playing every sport they can play for as long as they can play it. I was listening to Coach Puckett's podcast with you and talking about that same subject, and I liked how she put it. If they want to play multiple sports, I'm not going to shut that down at all. I'm going to encourage it. I think they learn things in other sports that are going to help them be better players on the golf course, and I'm going to support that for as long as I can. Coach Puckett also referred to this, and that at some point in time when you reach a certain level of playing ability, there's probably going to have to be choices made. But man, Coach McGraw says we want them playing everything they can play for as long as they can play it. Just makes them better athletes, makes them mentally tougher. All of those things that may be one of the biggest things in terms of how people perceive golfers. My girls are athletes. They think like athletes. They're tough. We work out 2 mornings a week. We're in the weight room with the music jacked up, and if they're getting that from other sports and getting their face mask tugged, that's going to do nothing but help them on the golf course.
Right on. And talk about those relationships. You've been in the coaching game long enough that you've encountered some young athletes who are now adults and maybe have families. Talk about some of those relationships and how important that is. It's funny you should mention that. I just had 2 girls from those very first years in El Paso come to my house this past weekend. They're both in their 40s. They have children, their moms, their wives. They own businesses. They're successful. And they came to watch a tournament that my girls played in this past Monday, be a part of that. And that is, Chris, that's absolutely priceless. Another young man from back in those very early days in El Paso, he's one of my best friends. We talk on a weekly basis. We hunt together. We do vacations together with his family, and watching him be a dad. And those moments and those times are, I don't know that there's any better award for a coach than to have that relationship with past athletes. I love that. Finally, talk to the new coaches who are maybe deciding what they want to coach, if they want to coach, why they want to coach, and what kind of advice would you give them?
I enjoyed listening to Coach Samples in his answer to that same question. It truly is the greatest profession in the world. What we are allowed to do, how we are allowed to affect the path of a young person's life, to be able to have an influence on them, and the relationships, my gosh, the relationships that we make through the coaching profession, and getting to know coaches in other sports, and seeing on a yearly basis back at coaching school, it just makes you so proud to walk through coaching school and to see all the faces that you've worked with and done battle with and gotten to know and shared ideas and learned from. And it's priceless. It's absolutely priceless. And I would tell a young coach, be patient, work hard, learn, work hard at building those relationships and cherish them. They'll be some of the best friends you'll ever have. I don't know many other businesses or professions that allow that type of atmosphere. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. My wife is also an educator, and this business has allowed us a really, really cool life that I wouldn't go back and change anything.
I love that. I love that, Coach. And I assume I will be seeing you at coaching school this year?
Absolutely. Wouldn't miss it for nothing. And I'm thrilled that this podcast exists. I'm so appreciative for the Texas High School Coaches Association and what Coach Martin and Coach West have done to include other sports, and it's a privilege and an honor to be a part of it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Coach McCuiston, for joining us and sharing some of your story.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Chris. It's been a pleasure.
The interviews in this show are brought to you by the Texas High School Coaches Association. THSCA provides to its more than 26,000 members access to the people, events, tools, and resources to help them thrive in the profession, become trusted leaders in their communities, and live balanced and successful lives. The work and sacrifice coaches do every day is vital to the development and success of student athletes. The THSCA supports these efforts. We fight for every coach, provide them with the connections and resources to improve their lives, and help all student athletes throughout the state enjoy lasting success. The mission statement is simply this: to help and serve Texas high school coaches as they work to help and serve student athletes. Helping coaches help kids. For more information on the THSCA, visit www.thsca.com. Hey, of course, I want to thank our guest, but I also want to thank you. I want to thank you for giving me what I consider the most valuable thing you can give, your time and your attention. And I know you don't do it to hear me. You hear it for the great messages provided by the THSCA. And hey, if you'd like to associate your company with the THSCA and the Coach's Call podcast, limited sponsorship opportunities are available. You can reach out to me, Chris Daly, 713-269-4620, or head over to my website, freshmediaworks.com. Once again, thank you so much for supporting Texas high school coaches. Please share this show out to everybody you can so that we can help share these important messages. Thanks again, and we'll catch you next time on The Coach's Call.